Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation, and I do mean across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show, and I've got a, I've got an encore performance coming up here by a fellow by the name of Thadd MacNeal. You know him, you love him. He's the head coach at Carlsbad High School in Carlsbad, California. Like he reminded me when I first had him on. You can see the Pacific Ocean from his high school football stadium, or at least from the press box. He owns a pizza joint or co-owner of a pizza joint in downtown Carlsbad. But the reason he's on the Tim May Show again is because he was the high school head coach of Julian Sayin, who, boy, coming out of that spring game, Coach McNeel, I wanted to have you on. I know you got to watch every play, as you reminded me before we started this, but I had some questions about Julian Sayin from the week before when we got to watch a little short scrimmage with him and with the students able to watch. But all of a sudden in the spring game with the lights on and 40,000 people there, Julian looked like the Julian Sayin who, as advertised. What was your take?
Well, yeah, I thought he did a really nice job. He looked in control of the offense. The things I liked were that he hit the throws he needed to make, and then instead of forcing some balls, he was able to get to his check downs and use his progression. And I think spring games can be a little bit tainted because you're using some twos and threes in there, and it's not real life situation, but it's 11-11 football, and he was processing pretty quickly. He looked very comfortable, so I think he's going in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, and you told me I think you spoke with him after that by phone, and just what was your take on him? Like I said, I'm not looking for you to blow him up on social media here, but just what was his take? Did he feel pretty good about the spring and especially that spring game? I mean, because the closest you guys get to simulating what's coming in the fall is a game like that, right? Where you're in head-to-head competition with somebody else. But what was his take on it?
Well, I talked to him pretty much weekly, and to get a report, and he's really pretty consistent in his reaction to spring football. It's like, yeah, things are going well. We're installing this. We looked at this week. We have these workouts. He just kind of gives me the game plan. Julian's pretty stoic all the time.
Yeah,
Um, but he said he's really taken on a bigger leadership role. He has a voice. Last year with Will being there, Julian was kind of in the back seat observing Will and seeing what a dynamic player and leader Will was, and so I think that was a great example for him. And now he feels like through competition, he doesn't ever think that, oh, the job's mine, because Coach Day is going to make it competitive, whoever's there. But he felt like coming out of spring ball, he was in a good position. He's
yeah,
got a real good grasp of the offense. He's had to make a adjustment with the offensive coordinator. It's a lot different than Chip Kelly, but it's the same system, more or less. And then,
yeah,
the spring game for him was another day. I think
yeah.
that's how he approached it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, Ohio State, Brian Hartline is wide receiver coach is taking over as the offensive coordinator now, and Billy Fessler, but Billy Fessler's still there. Was his quarterback coach pretty much last year, even though Chip Kelly was the official quarterback coach. Billy Fessler, I think it looks like he and Julian and all those guys, all three of those guys, have a pretty good relationship. And what has he spoken about that? But then number two, how important is that? Coach. I mean, for people who want to know some football 101.
Yeah, it's a big deal because you're right. Fessler last year, I think he was quality control on offense or something last year, but
Yeah,
he was boots on the ground with those QBs. He's in every meeting, and obviously every workout. So he loves Coach Fest. He's a bright young coach. I've met him a couple times. He's going in the right direction as well. And then he said, he's always told me since he got there, Coach Hartline is the real deal. He's one of his favorite coaches. Everyone respects him. So,
yeah,
I think it'll be somewhat collaborative. I think I want to see the tight ends coach or O-line coach is involved in the run game.
right.
Of course, we know Coach Day is an offensive guy, and he's going to have his thumb on that offense as well. But
Yeah,
with the weapons Ohio State has. Julian spoke highly about that new tight end from Purdue, and obviously that receiving core. I mean, it should be pretty dynamic.
Yeah. I, I got 100 questions, but I'm gonna limit them because you're actually an active teacher and coach, so you have other things to do with your life. But is it as you watched what happened with Ohio State last year and stuff, and you saw a team get its act back together after that loss to Michigan? What was your take on just the way Ryan Day, you as a peer, a head coach, on the way Ryan Day and his staff, but especially Ryan Day, handled that situation?
Well, I think they had a definite plan. If you really study Ohio State, their plays per game were really not depleted. They're
Down. Yeah.
significantly lower. I think they were really preparing for this playoff run. I think guys were in a healthier spot. They were huddling more. They were playing. They weren't playing as fast, and they were relying on that run game early. And then as they got more confident with Will, I think they let him go. And you could see that probably in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
It looked significantly different than the first 4 games for sure, or the middle of the 4 games in the conference. Criticism or not, that Ohio State, the Michigan game was rough, obviously, but they finished the right way, and they look super, super explosive by the end of the season.
Yeah, but you've walked into a locker room or a meeting room after a tough loss, and stuff. What is that first thing you want to? Because like I told Ryan, I had him on my show here like a month or so ago, and you come. Everybody has those moments of truth in a season, even when things are going well, where you're looking in guys' eyes, and he didn't turn the team over to that team, but that team found empowerment within itself. You know what I mean? I think the spiritual component of that team was huge. I think anybody could see that, could feel that. Julian may have even spoken to you about that, but but Ryan kind of like didn't turn it over to the players, but looked them eye to eye and said, "Hey, we kind of screwed up here. Let's get our act together," and then let them have their own meeting. And that meeting could have gone any kind of way and stuff. But as a head coach, you even learn observing other head coaches sometimes, don't you, and how they handle things?
100%. I think he did a good job of really rallying these guys and then not putting blame.
Yeah,
I think it's a big deal. When they had those meetings, I was privy to a little bit what was said, but it's if you start blaming everybody has to take accountability, and coaches included. And offensively, I think being able to get the ball to those outside receivers who are so talented really opened everything up. The defense was always playing pretty well.
yeah,
I think the offense was just a little bit stagnant. Not as explosive as it showed by the end of the year. So give credit to those coaches, man. And then
yeah,
obviously the players, as you said, taking control of the locker room. Great teams are led by players. That's been said hundreds
yeah,
of times.
yeah.
And you could see it with that Ohio State team, man. They were on a mission.
Yeah, Woody Hayes wrote a book. You win with people. He didn't say you win with head coaches.
For sure. I
Hey,
agree.
hey, last two things I wanted to ask you. Number one, when you watched Julian in the spring game, did he look a lot like he looked when he played for you in terms of from being comfortable? Like I told you earlier, the term I used from that Student Appreciation Day scrimmage was he looked at times uncomfortable. I mean, that was the best way. Frantic is not the word, but maybe a little hesitant to pull the trigger or pulling it too fast and stuff. I just thought he looked so smooth from the get-go in the spring game, and seemed to be on point with his receivers. Like you were talking about, you never know in a game who second, third team guys are running around out there sometimes. But I just saw a different kind of smoothness to him. Am I wrong about that? And does it remind you of him from days of yore?
Yeah, well, I think some of those scrimmages, you got to really watch tape and see why he looked
Yeah,
that way. It could be a left tackle getting beat. It could be a receiver, getting rerouted and not getting to where he's supposed to be. Or it could be Julian not processing as fast as he's supposed to.
yeah,
So, there's different, and they're all learning experiences. But yeah, in the spring game, he looked like he was at Carlsbad High School. I mean, in total control, putting the ball exactly where he wanted, throwing on time, being decisive. A talented or a run game that really helped those drives in that spring game. I think a balanced attack is going to be a big deal for Ohio State.
Yep.
I don't think they're a team that's going to throw it 40 times a game. If they do, he can do that. But they got to be balanced with that run game. But, the thing with Julian, he's one of the most calmest, coolest players I've ever seen. He's hard to get rattled. We've played behind with him. We've played ahead. We've played where we didn't protect him really well. And he doesn't change. It's all about moving the sticks, being productive, and scoring touchdowns.
Coach, I think your son now, Eli, is right. Yeah, headed into he's heading into his senior year, right? Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And he
sir.
started last year for you at quarterback. But I don't care, I don't care whether he's your son, your grandson. I'll probably start my grandsons over my son, but that's called spoiling. But my point is, when a coach finally gives the reins to a new quarterback, which is what Ryan's going to be doing in some form or fashion, what does that quarterback have to prove to him? What did your son have to prove to you? What did Julian have to show you to make him your starting quarterback at your level? You understand what I'm saying? There has to be I don't know if peace is ever the right term in there, but there has to be an understanding of what both parties are after, right?
Yeah, I think for one, he's got to own the team. He's got to take that ownership because the quarterback is arguably the most important position on the team. Julian did that without a doubt. Eli's done a pretty good job of that, especially as a junior. Take control of the team, take control of the offense, and then from a coach's point of view, you got to keep your team in positive situations.
Yeah.
The way I coach quarterbacks is I really don't care about yards and attempts. I care about touchdown to interception ratio and passing percentage.
Yeah.
Because if those are high, your offense is going to be productive.
Yeah.
Julian, if you look at his stats in high school, they weren't national stats. But if you look at his touchdown to interception ratio and his passing percentage, very, very high.
Yeah.
Very, very efficient. There's guys in this recruiting world where they recruit these quarterbacks who can do backflips and jump over cars, but on third down, when there's a lot of pressure, can they hit a dig route? And I put my money on Julian Sayin 100%.
Yeah, put that foot in the ground, let her rip, baby.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you got to complete footballs, man. So
Yeah.
Look at the great quarterbacks, whether it's in college or in pro. All are good athletes in a capacity, but you have to be able to complete footballs, man.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Process what's going on in front of you quickly and get it done. Hey,
Yes, sir.
last question. There's a good chance that Carlsbad High School, there's a good chance that its alum, Julian Sayin, could be the starting quarterback for defending national champion Ohio State in the fall. Are you already busting with a little bit of a pride, knowing that you had something to do with this young man's background, but also what it means to your high school to be able to put that on the wall if in fact it happens?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, I'm tickled to death. I feel humbled that he played for Carlsbad High School, my high school where I went to school. We're a little public school in San Diego, and we have the #1 quarterback in the nation. But Julian's he's one of the guys. He'll come home and he acts the same way. And for him to be on this national stage, my wife just said, "Can you believe Julian just met the president?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a very humbling feeling. I just feel really lucky to be a part of his process. So many people have helped him along the way. But yeah, we hope that kid wins another national champion, many for Ohio State, wins a Heisman, does the whole thing. I've never been a huge Ohio State fan, except I told you I had a player play for Coop, but now I'm a Buckeye all the way. We do have another player at Michigan, so that's always a fun week. But when Julian's playing, I'll be watching.
Gotcha. By the way, Coach, give everybody who's driving down the 5 or wants to turn off and get to Carlsbad or is coming down Pacific Coast Highway, Do you still have that pizza joint? And what's the address?
Yeah, so we're on El Camino Real, 1104. It's called That Pizza Place. Got the best wings and pizza in town for sure.
That pizza place, I'm telling you, I was close to it there, just meandering.
You got
Ladies
to
and
come.
gentlemen,
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Thadd MacNeal, the head coach at Carlsbad High School, former head coach for Julian Sayin of Ohio State. Coach, thanks for joining me again on the Tim May Show.
Appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend. She's up.